Welcome to the Grab a Hole podcast. I'm your host, Justin S., and I am back in the pool house. And tonight, for this episode, it's just me. If you are watching us on YouTube, thank you. If you're listening to us on Audible, Amazon Music, or Spotify, thank you. Make sure that you hit the like, the bell, to subscribe, the heart, whatever it is on your platform, to make sure that you get these as soon as they drop. We will have two episodes. We will have this one this week, where I will be talking about the Killer or Karrion Kross, depending on how you know him, documentary, and the round of cuts that WWE had. And then we will also have our predictions episode either later tonight or dropping tomorrow for this weekend for Backlash in St. Louis. As I said, tonight is just me for this episode. Me and David are a little bit busy at the moment, and so I went ahead and watched the Karrion Kross documentary and got some thoughts about that. And then recently we've had some budget cuts with WWE where they've got rid of some office people along with some talent. So I'm going to talk about some of that as well. If you notice that the video is clearer or more well lit, please let me know. This is a new camera, new setup. As I said, when we started to unveil and roll out the whole video aspect of this, this is something that's been a work in progress, learning on the fly, learning as we go, and trying to make this the best visual podcast as possible, where you can see us, you can see some of the stuff I have in the background here, from the CM Punk figure to the Outsiders NWO box to the Big Gold WWE Championship to the Rhea Ripley autograph over there. Got my Raiders memorabilia and pictures and tickets from a game. Got the collage from the New Japan shows from 2018. Got a little bit of everything in there, and now hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better. If you're looking at the surface there's also cards. I do my and the phone stand that I would do Whatnot streams from. So if you're one of the listeners from Whatnot and you're watching, you can kind of see where the setup is in here, where I'm doing stuff as well. Multitasking in the pool house is what goes on. We use it for some storage. We use it for Whatnot. I use it for the podcast. It's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife for us here at the house. As I said, we're doing the whole review of the, I guess if you want to call it a documentary, you can. It was 48 minutes on Kross's YouTube. It was assumed that it was filmed all over the weekend of WrestleMania, and they seem to, whoever put it together as far as the editing goes, seemed to edit it pretty well and pretty quickly, because there was a lot of footage from WrestleMania and then it came out fairly quickly after that. Excuse me. But it focuses on him and being from Las Vegas and where he comes from and how he cut his teeth in the business and where, he is now, where he was comparatively. Not a whole lot of like deep dive on where he was as far as NXT and being let go. He does touch on it, but it doesn't show anything of that. They show him doing Bloodsport, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, WrestleMania weekend. They show his promo that went viral on the WrestleMania recap show with Sam Roberts and Megan Maroney, I believe her name is, that he had everybody talking about it, where, he talked about his interaction and advice from Bill Goldberg. He talked about, what it was to be a good soldier. And then kind of coincidentally enough, Bayley does an interview with Chris Van Vliet, and you hear Bayley kind of give the good soldier talk. And so you kind of went, whoa, like that's really a thing. Like he's telling the truth, it seems like. I kind of had to watch it in halves because I was at work and I wanted to watch it. But from everything that I saw about it, I loved it. I really loved it. It was well shot. It wasn't over the top where it was a bunch of edits of, him trying to look cool or Scarlett trying to look cool and to be fair, listen, Scarlett's a good looking woman, very, very appealing lady. And this wasn't about her. This was about him. And she's in it in a supporting role, but this isn't about showing off his wife. This wasn't a, let's get invested piece based on what my wife looks like. Like, this was really based on his merit and his skill work and his mic work and his, body of work as a whole. So it really was something that was predicated on you understanding as the viewer what he's been up against recently and the way that he feels about it. They talked about things in a current fashion with a friend of his that is a pro wrestler. And I saw online somebody said it almost sounded like, and from watching it, that we weren't supposed to be in the room hearing the conversation that they were having at one point in the whole documentary. And I thought that was pretty fair. Like the way that they shot it off to the side of the table that they were sitting at, they did a real good job of making you feel like you were just a fly on the wall to the conversation. It was, like I said, it was directed well, it was edited well, it came together very well. The 48 minutes flew by. I mean, it really felt like it could have been longer and you wouldn't even have noticed. But I also feel like, I mean, 45, 48 minutes seemed like pretty perfect. You saw him show a range of emotion. This idea that he's, the guy that is just moving along to get along in the company. Then you see what he's been up against and you hear what he's been up against as far as being pushed down the card, or people feeling like, man, they squandered him after his NXT run, and what they could have done with him on the main roster. And then now you see him, trying to come through in this angle, I guess, if you want to call it that, with AJ in this Logan Paul match that happened at WrestleMania. And from there, you see people kind of, and myself included, I said this on the review, that I would have rather seen Kross and AJ instead of AJ and Logan at WrestleMania. And it was a big deal. What he did, even in the moment after and in the match from ringside, was a big deal. People cared about what he was doing. From there, they showed that he had to go to the doctor, that he had a busted eardrum, and they showed, actually he passed out, like in the middle of them working on his eardrum. And then he, just kind of came to and no sold that he actually passed out. It was, for somebody who deals with hearing issues as I do, uh, it was really eye-opening, because I've never had that instance or any information about like what it's like to deal with when you bust your eardrum like that, and what they have to do. As on a personal level, like I had people poke around in my ear and have to do scans and things of that nature due to hearing loss that I deal with. But I'd never seen something like that, where like a busted eardrum where the guy had to go in. And so it was really like, that looks like it hurts, that looks like it sucks. And to see somebody like him, who's a big imposing figure, have to deal with that. And then you see him talking about the whole frustration that he's dealing with, and how it's sad that he's in Vegas at home visiting his grandma, and they're not getting to be a part of the biggest show of the year, and all those things. Like, he really showed a range of emotion. And there's these moments in the doc where you see him kind of go from the normal guy, as they show him on the street interacting with kids and interacting with people in Las Vegas and having a good time and laughing. Even at one point, he tells somebody that his name is Roman Reigns and he's a stripper, just to laugh. So there's these moments where you're seeing him where you go like, oh, he seems like a pretty like normal, fun guy. But then there's these moments where, as he's talking, that you kind of see that killer persona show through, and you see his voice get deeper, and you see this aggressiveness and this almost animal behind his eyes that kind of shows up, and you really see this like, shit, like this is the real guy in there, is just waiting to get out. So I was really, really impressed with seeing that. I mean, I've been a fan of his for a while, and it's been a shame that he hasn't had anything to do on the main roster, that they've kind of hindered him over and over again. He did the Killer Kross thing in NXT and it went well. He was the champion and all those things. But then on top of that, he goes to the main roster and Vince, lets him get beaten 8 seconds by Jeff Hardy. And then, they kind of just don't do anything with him, but like worth a shit. And then he disappears because they let him go. And then they bring him right back. Hunter brings him right back, and then they do this Final Testament thing with Paul Ellering and AOP. And at first it kind of seemed like it had legs if AOP was his backup, but Paul Ellering was a lot. He seemed kind of extra in the whole thing. And then just in the overall, like, it seemed like there was a lot there going on, but nothing happening, if that makes sense. So, they show him, and this is all about him. He does blood sport in a gi again, and they explain his opponent that his opponent says like, I'm just gonna fuck him up. Like, that's the line he gives. It shows their back and forth. It shows him eating chops, and he says, I didn't want to get into a chopping match with this guy, a striking match, and I did it anyway. And Kross winds up being the guy that wins at Bloodsport. There's a huge crowd that loves him in that venue and that knows who he is. And at the end of the day, you kind of look at him and go like, man, like, this is the fucking dude that they need to get behind. Like, this is one of the guys that should be on TV every week, not standing in the crowd with Kathy Kelly doing an interview, not standing in the back, just provoking somebody every week. Like, this dude needs to be in the ring. He needs to have a promo segment. Like, they need to like weave him in the show in multiple segments and not just sprinkle him in here and there, where it's not, something that you look at that he's supposed to be there, or that, it's meant to be there, so to speak. It kind of just seems like, oh, well, we'll give him his, 3 minutes or whatever it is for his segment in the back. And then they just kind of move on. And at this point, especially coming out of this, I mean, I know there's been a lot of support with people buying his merch, going crazy about it. But I mean, if there was ever any physical evidence that people didn't have before, this is it. Like, this is a moment to go, oh, this guy's got it. And everybody knows he's talented in the ring. And the nuances that he has as a character and the things that he does in the ring or the things that he says in promos and backstage segments, like if you're not listening or you're not paying attention fully, you'll miss it. So he likes to hide things, and in the past, not necessarily in this doc, he's talked about his friendship with Bray Wyatt and the way that he thinks and the way that they thought together and what they had in mind. And you can see some of those intricacies about why Bray might have seen him as a kindred spirit throughout his character development. In this, one of the things that he says is that he could get mad and he can get frustrated and he can leave, but that's not him. And that the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you fucking water it. So water it. Figure out a way to water it. I love that. I love that. There's today's age, there's so much of this, like, I'm just going to run away and go somewhere else because either, it's not fair or I didn't get what I wanted or I'm not going to work hard enough to prove these motherfuckers wrong and, turn around and end my contract and honor that. I'm just going to ask for my release and go somewhere else because it's not fair. And then they go somewhere else and then you see them do the same thing and you're like, wait a minute, like this, it's not the company, it's the person. That's the real issue here is that they don't work as hard as they think they do. And Kross doesn't strike me as one of those guys. I believe him when he says water the grass where you fucking are. That's a big thing. So ultimately, taking this away, you could kind of see in certain instances, like obviously he says at a certain point, like, I can't talk about all of this because I'm not supposed, like, this will be gone. Obviously, there's some things that have to be kept under wraps, kept behind a curtain, if you will. But if this is what the new kayfabe is, I'm in. Like, he does a wonderful job of blurring what's business and what's real, because you can clearly see that there's real feelings, real emotions, real, range of emotions that he goes through, real reactions that he goes through in this documentary. And, ultimately, people saw the viral moment that went crazy of him on the recap show where he had went ahead and said, hey, being a good soldier gets you nowhere. Because at the end of the day, the advice he got from Bill Goldberg was, hey, you got this, be a good soldier. And all it got him was having to watch Logan Paul and AJ should have been the guy to put him down. And at the end, he, says it's all bullshit and tells the guy with the suit and the tie in the truck to go fuck himself and walks off. Obviously, WWE is not going to air that if they don't feel like it's okay or that it's appropriate. And they did. Even in the follow-up, they did. So I think that, I don't know if he told them, but I do think that they knew something, that he was going to go off in some aspect of this, and good for them. If they did know what was coming, good for them for letting him do it his way and letting it become a viral moment and letting this have legs and see where it goes. I hope they build more and more to this. I hope they build more and more for him. Clearly, he has a vision for this character and what he's doing. And I'm one of those guys in this situation with him. After seeing this for sure, I was a fan before and I'm an even bigger fan now. I'm willing to sit back and let's see what you got. Like, let's not overthink this. Let's not overproduce this. Let's let him do his thing and let's see what happens. Put him in the middle of the card. Put him in the upper middle of the card. Like, you mean to tell me that, he can't have a hell of a match with Penta? You mean to tell me that he can't work with Chad Gable? He can't work with these guys that you have in the middle? He's already worked with Sammy. You've seen him, his match before Mania was with AJ on Raw. To me, that should have been the Mania match, like I said earlier. So, he clearly is in that range where he can do lots of things. And, if you don't view him as a top guy, he's definitely an upper middle guy. That's for sure. So I would hope that WWE takes this as a sign from the fans. Damian mentioned this on the podcast last week when we were talking about things and how to get reactions. Is the best reaction if you want to make a statement to somebody and you don't want to see them anymore is to do nothing. Don't make a noise, sit on your hands, don't clap, don't cheer, don't boo, don't say a word. That the crickets is what makes them go away. But if you really want to get behind somebody, yeah, buy their merch. Get loud as fuck when you see them on your screen. If you see them in person when you're at the live event, like tweet about them, or whatever it's called now that they're on X. Put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, put it on TikTok. Well, that's still around. Do whatever it is to promote them that you can. One of the things that I get the feeling with Kross is that this is homegrown. People like homegrown and organic. And Kross doing things his way and putting out this documentary that's not WWE affiliated is definitely an organic homegrown thing. And people like that in the wrestling world today. People like organic. People like the idea that it's not a company pushed thing or that it's not somebody getting jammed down your throat because the company thinks you like them. or because the company thinks like this is who you should like rather. So good for him. Good for him for taking the ball and trying to run it to the goal to himself. Hopefully WWE sees this as a touchdown. Hopefully they see this as a home run, whatever sports analogy you want to use. But at the end of the day, if this is where kayfabe is headed, let's do more of this. Let's do more of this, like blurring the lines of these are my feelings, but this is, me showing you some shit, and do more of this. Like this is, to me, this is an authentic, real, like I care about this, but I'm going to only show you what I want you to show, what I want you to see. And if you believe me, then, I got you. But if you don't, then you're probably unsure because I'm telling you the truth, aren't I? I really like this. I really think that that WWE needs to take a hint that this idea of tweeners and all these things, like Kross is a perfect example. Like the things that he's going to do aren't going to be dastardly when the fans want to see it. It's just like the Seth and Braun thing, right? Like he was a heel because of what Paul did to Seth, or to Roman and Punk rather, at WrestleMania, not because of what he did. And now that he's with Braun and, running the show with those two, now people don't want to boo him because it's cool. It's cool to see that crazy spear. It's cool to see them all standing together. It looks good together. It's understood. He's not doing things to get himself booed. Kross has never claimed to be a good guy, right? On Monday, he said, I'm the devil you know versus the devils you don't. So that doesn't mean he's good. That's how you do the tweener thing, is you put like, hey, listen, this is what fucked Cody at WrestleMania 2 because Cody's a good guy, right? But sometimes when you're a good guy, you got to do bad shit to protect yourself or to protect others. He didn't bring in the belt in the finish. He could have used it. John kicked him in the balls. Everybody would have understood. Like, hey, if he uses it, it's John's fault for bringing it in, and John gets what he deserves, and Cody does it. Instead, he didn't do it. He refused, and then you saw how that went. Kross is saying, I didn't say I was a good guy. I said I'm the devil you know. So if you're okay with me, then you're going to understand that I continue to do some of the things that I do because you were aware of that when you signed on with me. So I'm excited. I hope that WWE does something with him. I hope that they, go ahead and put that out there for him and Scarlett to do bigger things. Excuse me. I hope that they get to a point with him where, he's in a regular story that takes. Everybody's like, put a title on him. Well, you could, but I feel like the idea is, what if he's so good he doesn't need the title? Right? Doesn't that say more about him? You want to see him do so well, and you're watching that character do so well that he doesn't even need the title. That's how invested you are. And he'll get the title at some point, but right now, the character's what you give a shit about. Not that he's the champion. You care about him and what he's doing. So excited for that. Definitely go watch The Killer is the title of the documentary. It's on his YouTube channel, on Killer Kross's YouTube channel. Easy to find. Real easy to find. If not, it's on his social media. Instagram, he's been reposting people's links and things of that nature from their reviews. So go ahead and find it on any social media. It's called The Killer on YouTube. Go watch Karrion or Killer Kross. Good luck to you, sir. I hope it goes well. Want to see more of it. Now, speaking of cuts and killers, WWE's annual budget cuts came around this year. Their spring budget cuts that they seem to do every year. It started with Office people earlier in the week, and then some people were like, oh, well, talent's next. And they were right. There's a whole plethora of NXT talent that was taken out, and some surprising, some not. There was only a handful of main roster talent that was let go, but there were some shocking names that were listed in there as well. For the main roster, Shayna Baszler, Caden Carter, Katana Chance, Braun Strowman, and Dakota Kai all were let go or not renewed in one way or the other. Shotzi was another one that is not being renewed. I think one of the things that needs to be understood is that from the business aspect, a lot of people have been yelling from the rooftops like, WWE's talking all this shit about record-breaking numbers and record-breaking gates and all these metrics, so why would they have to let people go? The fact of the matter is taking emotion and personal preferences aside, it's the cycle or the machine, however you want to look at it, that's what they do. That they will cycle people in and out. They're looking for what's hitting. If you're not hitting, then they got to move on because there's more people waiting for your spot. There's other people in NXT. I said this on Discord with the community that I'm on Discord with. People forget how big NXT is. As much as you see people every Tuesday on the CW with NXT, there's 60, 100 other people in NXT that are just training every day, that are doing weight training, conditioning, drills for in the ring, having their own, wrestling matches amongst each other inside of the NXT Performance Center. And you're not seeing them at all. So they're waiting for their chance. They're waiting to be told they're ready to go. So if you're not connecting or you're not getting better to where you look like you're figuring it out, when you're a machine as big as WWE is, they're going to keep rolling and they're going to keep moving. And like I said, some people didn't get fired, outright fired. They just were told, hey, we're just not going to renew you at this point, which I think people kind of go, well, that's the same thing. It's not. When you have a contract with somebody for something, let's say the contract's 2 years, can they extend you after 1 year and go, hey, listen, we love what you're doing and we want to extend you 2 more years? So now you have 4 total, but we'll go 3 after this first year. Yeah, sure. But they can also go, you know what? Listen, where we are financially, where we are as a company with the amount of people we have and the body we have, we're going to go the length of the deal and go 2 years, and then we're going to wait, and then we're going to assess things. Do we want to bring you back? Do you deserve a raise? Are we going to ask you to take less based on what we're seeing? And then we'll decide from there. All like people like me who have regular jobs, we're not, well, as much as we sign paperwork, those aren't contracts that are yearly that get renewed every year. We're under the workforce until fired or let go. Like that's the way that goes. We're not like, oh, every year we get to reassess everything and then decide, do I want to sign again or do I want to go somewhere else? That doesn't work. But in sports and in, wrestling, it does. And so I think some people kind of take things harshly because of a preference of, some of those names that I listed right now and what those people meant to them or their fandom. And I think you kind of have to understand that for all the bitching and moaning that some people might do about like, why didn't they give Shayna Baszler a chance? Or why didn't they, give Braun a chance? Listen, that's part of the reason why they're cut is because they didn't have anything for it. Are they going to keep letting fans of them continue to get upset because they're not using them and they're benching them or, they're hurt a lot? And it's like in the long term, I don't know if we need to keep them. Braun was around for the Fatu thing where they, helped jump off Jacob Fatu for Saturday night's main event and then into Chamber and into Mania, which was great. But people forget, like, he was paralyzed in 15% of one of his legs until he had neck surgery. His neck is fused. They were paying him a handsome amount of money. It didn't justify how much he was on TV, so they let him go. Shayna Baszler has been somebody who continually has been not used and then was used a lot when Ronda was there. And then Ronda leaves again, and so does Shayna. She goes away. And then they had something with Sonya and her and Zoe, people felt like, with their group. But, Pure Fusion Collective was a big name to say. And, some people like the individuals, not everybody liked the group. And then, Sonya goes, and now then it was like, well, what do you do? What do you have for Shayna? Maybe we put her on main event? I don't know. And so she's gone. So I don't find her interesting personally. This one doesn't bother me at all. Braun was a big guy, but I understand, so that one doesn't really bother me at all. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, another set of girls that were unused. They used them for a stretch. People seem to be okay with them in the women's tag team division, but not everybody was like, oh, yeah, like, let's run with them. And they didn't have any creative for them after a while. They tried the whole, like, EDM, festival type persona where they're using bubble machines and flashing lights, almost rave-esque, and it didn't seem to hit or land like they hoped it would. So unfortunately, nobody wants to see somebody lose their job, especially as somebody who has a family like I do. I don't ever want to hear if somebody's losing food off the table for their families and loved ones. That's never fun. So I'm not happy about it, but I understand WWE's position of it. And I hope that these wrestlers, men and women, take this as an opportunity to be like, all right, I'm gonna fucking show you. I'm either gonna come back better than I ever have been and make a name for myself. And we've seen examples of that, right? Drew, Cody, we've seen other guys come and go and come back and be bigger and better. Even people might say no, but it's true. Gender's another example of that for a stretch. So, I hope that they go out of their way to do so. Or, flip WWE the bird when they're such a big star that they don't need them and they can choose not to come back if they don't want to. Some of the shocking names or surprising names, Dakota Kai was probably the most shocking name in the group at this particular point because she's been around with Damage Control and she's been a women's tag team champion. She was in the Intercontinental Tournament finals for the women. She just came off of having an Intercontinental rematch. She has had a history of injuries, which is understood, but this one was shocking because it was like, people have started to get behind her and been like, man, give her a chance. I mean, I get it in the sense that Lyra's younger and she's, the upside's there and you've seen her be healthy and all that good stuff. That's great. But at the end of the day, I think that Dakota excuse me, has done a good job of being a team player and putting in the work. And every time she's got hurt, she's come right back and tried to put on the best show that she could. But to be fair, the one thing I will say is they've kind of always stuck her with somebody, whether it was Raquel, whether it was Damage Control and being the mouthpiece for them. Like, she didn't really get a chance on the main roster, at least, to show what she could do on her own. And so that one was definitely shocking because I felt like you may not have had people clamoring for her, but she definitely had a little bit of momentum where you're like, let's wait this out. Let's see what we can do. For Jakara Jackson, another one from NXT that was surprising. She's been in some up and down moments where she's been up on SmackDown and then they took her down and, put her back in NXT. And then they've kind of went away from some of the stuff she's doing. And then she was a part of some stuff they were doing with the women's stuff. But she's one where apparently they don't feel like who they have versus her is going to work out. That they feel like she has more downside or they feel like the others have more of an upside. One of the two. But it still was surprising nonetheless. The two out of NXT that were the most surprising were Gigi Dolan and Cora Jade. It was interesting to hear for Cora Jade. She has a pretty good following overall. Gigi, FKA Priscilla Kelly, has had a following since the Indies. It was a big thing for her to come to NXT, and she's done well. But I think that for them, WWE kind of only saw them one way. And, having Cora Jade work with Roxanne Perez and be involved in these moments with like Julia and Stephanie Vacour and other moments before she got hurt, like they definitely saw something in her. But that tells me that there was something that wasn't being either communicated or wasn't right for them that they didn't like about what she was doing, whether that's on camera or off camera. That, it's been brought up by Dave Meltzer that he reported that some of the reasons that people were let go or not renewed was because some of them were considered lazy. He didn't say names, which was interesting that some of the people got really offended and felt the need to defend themselves. But he didn't say names, and they went on to say like, hey, excuse me, it's later in the evening, that they did all this training work, they did all this extra, they did all these things, and it was like, hey, he didn't say you, he didn't say your name, so why the guilty conscience to have to feel like you need to defend yourself? If you did what you did and you know what you did, then you don't need to say shit, especially not to Dave Meltzer. But I feel like, especially Gigi, they kind of viewed her a certain way. She never got a real like individual run. It was, Toxic Attraction. It was a group, faction to faction, jumping around. She never really got the run that you would have expected her to have, especially coming off of what she did as Priscilla Kelly on the Indies. I'm excited to see what those two do. There's a lot of rumors going on. I know there's some sad card collectors and memorabilia collectors this week based on this, but I hope, like I said, I don't want to see anybody lose money out of their pocket or food off their table for them or their families, but I hope that all of them take this as an opportunity to, put the middle finger in the air and tell everybody, hey, this is what we're doing. And this is why you're missing out now. You fucked up by letting us go, but, you'll be sorry in the end. So I hope that that's what happens. I hope that's how that goes. But we'll see how it turns out. We'll see what happens. I mean, I hope that's the end of the cuts. I do. There tend to be a few that are lingering here and there every year, but I hope that this is, the end of it for this year. And that they continue to push forward and use the people that are there. Use the people that they have with good storytelling and let them be themselves and let them have the opportunity to continue to go out of their way to build their characters and have those in-ring moments. And if they don't connect, let's not be so hasty to get to the point where, like a lot of people do today, they throw shit away rather than put the work in, right? As Kross said, the grass isn't greener somewhere else, it's greener where you water it. So water that motherfucker. Put the work in, do what you need to do, and do your best. As they say, the cream rises to the top. The people will see you when it's you and they know that it's, somebody they like or somebody they connect with. They'll tell management. They'll let people know. Like Cody last year at WrestleMania 40 was the perfect example of that. So I hope these people don't take it as, this horrible crushing thing. As sad as it may be, I hope they use it as fuel and motivation and they come back out of this, whether it's with WWE or anywhere else, that they come back stronger for it. As far as where we're headed, we are in the middle of the week, currently headed towards Backlash and Mother's Day weekend. So if you are celebrating Mother's Day and all that good stuff, make sure that you get your mama a good gift. Make sure that you show her some love. Make sure that if you are a mother yourself and you are listening, make sure you take some time to enjoy your day and that you enjoy the work that you've put in as a parent. So shout out to all the moms as we head towards Mother's Day this week. Backlash, as I said, we'll be doing the predictions episodes with at least me and David or Damien, one of the two. I don't know if it'll be which one it'll be, but it definitely won't be the three of us. Scheduling wise, we just couldn't make the day work where we all three came together and were able to get to it. So one of them is going to have to send in their predictions and we'll have to read them on camera. So that way you can see and hear what their places are and where we are in what they've done in the 3-week turnaround since WrestleMania to get to Backlash. If you are not already following us on Instagram, we are on the Grab a Hold podcast with an underscore after each word except for the word podcast. I also have a YouTube page for the card community. If you are somebody who is a collector of WWE cards and likes the trading cards, you can find mine and my son's Instagram page for our cards, for WWE cards. We do have other sports, but WWE is the main one, and we sell them and buy them on Whatnot and on eBay. So if you're listening to us there on Spotify, Amazon, Audible, all those good things, roll on over to Instagram and check those things out if you're a big enough WWE fan to even check out the cards. We got some fun stuff up there. Shout out to the people from Discord. I know you guys always showed love for the podcast. You guys are always out here talking about us and showing love and lots of word of mouth. So shout out to you guys. If you can see that Rhea Ripley picture right there is autographed in the top corner. It's kind of right there. It's blue pen. Shout out to buddy of the show, Kay Lewis from Discord. He had that as a giveaway. I won that as a giveaway. So shout out to him. That's the big piece of Rhea memorabilia, if I could talk, that I have thanks to him. And shout out to everybody from Discord and Essential Sports Cards, as always. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you showing love. Hopefully, like I said, we can get the predictions episode done tonight. If not, it'll be up tomorrow, and we will see you guys as soon as we possibly can. And like I said, let me know on the feedback. If there's questions, if there's comments you guys have, there's a comment section on YouTube, obviously. There's a comment section on Spotify if you're listening to us on Spotify. And as always, we appreciate any type of love that we get from there. And if there's something you guys want to talk about, I know this got brought up on somebody's Whatnot stream, talking about the 97 Survivor Series and the screw job. Was it a work or not? That's something that we could potentially look into. If there's something you guys want to hear us talk about, it doesn't necessarily have to be current. Please feel free to put it in the comment section or shoot me a message on Instagram, and we'll be sure to make sure that we read it on the show and shout you out for the question and see what we can do with it. Other than that, I'm out. Shout out to all the moms. Hopefully we get here quick with one of the other two guys so we can do this episode for you. You guys get 2 episodes this week. Make sure you let me know how the new lighting setup and the new camera looks. We'll see you next time on another episode of the Grab a Hold podcast.